Yeah, then I'll introduce him. Yeah, so Christian is an offensive security manager at TELUS, one of the okay. He's an offensive security manager at TELUS, and he has been involved in cybersecurity in various roles for the last 10 years plus, overlapping with career in software development that started in 1997. It's quite a long period, actually. Yeah, so his journey started at Telnos as a contractor performing penetration testing and security assessments. Then after 2 years, he then joined them as full time. Yeah, so while going through this, I was like, oh, this is going to be a good section, and I believe so. I am confident with the history or the record. I went further a little bit to do some more research about him, and I must say I'm impressed. And it's my pleasure to welcome you. And please join me, or let's welcome him for today's speaking. Oh,
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words. Hello, Edmonton. So good to be home. This is like going to church. Everybody just sit at the back and leave the front seats empty here. If you want to move to the front, feel free to rearrange, Let's get cozy in here. And it's so good to talk here in Edmonton. I have traveled a fair bit in the last, I don't know how long, 4 or 5 years, 3, 4 years, telling my stories about the industry, sharing experiences, sharing failures, which is sometimes more important than sharing our experience. So you go make your own mistakes. Don't make the same mistakes I made. So it's always good to share those, but it has been such a long time that I don't have one of these sessions here in Edmonton. And one thing that blew my mind right away is how many people I know here. It's so good to see so many familiar faces, people that used to work with me at TELUS, people that used to work with me. If you know me for a while, you know I worked at Concordia for many years, been teaching there for many years. I understand they're one of the biggest sponsors here today. Who in here is associated with Concordia in any way? Students, staff, professors, former student? Okay, well, I guess they're probably watching other sessions, but anyways, pleasure to be here. And my name is Cristian Cordeiro. I work for TELUS and I manage the offensive security department. But don't worry, I'm not going to be offensive here today. I've been practicing for a while. If I start being offensive, just let me know and I'll tone it down a notch. But what we do there is offensive security, which means we are not really preventing things. We are trying to replicate criminal behavior in a non-destructive fashion. So, trying to find the breaches, exploit the things, and find the vulnerabilities, and where can we go from there before an actual criminal does it. So that's what we do there. And I've been in that. I used to be one of the penetration testers, which was a lot of fun. And in addition to the story that I'm telling today, I prepared some bits and pieces of a couple funny moments that happened during those years. And I have a larger story today about how a red team exercise was able to gain full control of a customer network during the execution of that engagement. It was a long engagement, and that's typically the nature of red team engagements. And eventually we were able to obtain full access. And the client had no idea. They never got any alerts. They really had no idea. And that's the scary part, because this was a customer that, on paper, they were doing everything right. So say you're an auditor. Do you have any auditors here? Show of hands? No? We got a couple here. So if you walk into that customer and you're like, okay, let me see your process, let me talk to your people, you do your interviews, you look at the reports, everything checks out. They had been doing penetration testing for the last few years. They had their compliance in place. They had their security awareness programs in place. They had an EDR installed, obviously misconfigured. They had one in there. They had a SIM, also obviously misconfigured, but it was there. On paper, thumbs up, it was good. And we still got in, and they had no idea. But I'll get there. I promised myself I'll keep spoilers to a minimum here. So let me stay on track here. Before I start talking about that story, I want to talk a little bit more about what we do at TELUS in terms of security, because when you talk TELUS, most people are not really fully aware of the breadth of our professional services. Who in here knew that TELUS had any kind of cybersecurity practice? We're getting better. More people know than before. There are a couple here that don't count because they are part of the team, so they already knew. They're undercover here on the presentation, but that's really good news. But yes, we're not just your dad's phone company. We do the cool stuff here too. So we're part of a larger group of professional services. So we perform all of those services like PCI compliance, GRC, and all the frameworks out there, NIST, the 18, CIS 18, ISO, all of those. If you need an incident response retainer, we have that too. Do you want to do tabletop exercises? Yep, happy to help. And we have my team, the offensive security practice, doing all of those services on the offensive side as opposed to the defensive side. I manage the team nationally, so I'm happy to have a great base team here in Edmonton. I have people in Toronto, in Quebec. In fact, we have recently acquired a cybersecurity company out of Quebec called Viewmetric. They're a specialized penetration testing company. They bring a lot of expertise in some specific areas of penetration testing, very good and very sophisticated technology that they developed in-house that is now part of the TELUS group, and we're now integrating that big family. So it's a big team. And because we have the even bigger TELUS badge behind our backs, we're always invited to participate on those very high-profile security engagements. I remember one time we were performing a penetration test in, it was air transportation field, and we were testing avionics systems. And it was so high profile that we could not go to the bathroom unescorted because we were following national security guidelines. That's the caliber of some of the projects we're involved because of all the connections we have. But we also have our smaller customers and our communities and all that, which is a big portion and a big part of TELUS and one of our TELUS core values, keeping our customers and communities first. Now, the services that we perform here with offensive security, and I'm not going to exhaust all of them because we don't have time for that or interest, but the ones that I wanted to emphasize here today are penetration testing. And I want to talk a little bit about the differences between penetration testing and red team simulation, because I have noticed in the industry, especially among salespeople, using those terms interchangeably. They are not interchangeable. They're very different. They have different meanings. On a penetration test, you come to me and, hey, Cristian, I need a penetration test. It's for compliance, or it's for my insurance, or we just deployed a new system. We need to test this system, these IP addresses, and the engagement is going to happen between October 4th and October 10th. This is my network admin. Let him know when you're starting. Let him know when you're ending. That's the penetration test. And then at the end of the engagement, you get your report for compliance and all that. On a red team exercise, it's not like that at all. In fact, you tell me almost nothing. We are really trying to replicate criminal behavior there without getting caught. So at the end, we can teach you how we did it, so you can fix it and prevent from that point forward. There is an overlap in methodology and resources. If you get a penetration tester, a more seasoned penetration tester, very likely get into a red team exercise and be very successful there. If you're just starting your journey in offensive security, chances are you're going to start with vulnerability assessments and then getting more knowledge and getting more tools in your toolbox and doing the penetration tests and then internal engagements. And then eventually you get to the red team, because the key thing for a red team simulation, you got to be quiet. Got to be a ghost, because, well, first, Criminals, they're not using Qualys. They're not using Nessus. They don't have a Rapid7 subscription. They are most of the time creating your own tools. So you don't get to use those either. You need to either create your own tools or use open source tools so you're not caught. You don't get caught, right? Social engineering, that's also something that we do a lot there. Well, we're the phone company, so one of the main things we do on a red team engagement is voice solicitation, also known as vishing. Who in here is familiar with the term social engineering? Excellent. For those of you who are not, social engineering is the art of hacking people, and it's a phenomenal skill to have. I may have used that in my, get into concerts and other events, but I digress. Let's keep that just between us. But when you are a social engineer, you develop certain techniques to be more, develop your confidence and being able to persuade people a lot more so you can get what you want. And that could be passwords, that could be credit card numbers, that could be whatever the target of the engagement is. And we have an excellent team of social engineers. It got better when I left the team. I was one of the people making the calls, and now we have much better people doing making those calls. We have one guy there making vision calls. He's so good that one time, because it's obviously all lies, right? It's basically a legal phone scam that you are running to try to get access to sensitive information. And this guy is so good that he called, and the target was a developer, like a software developer, technical guy. So he starts running the script, and it was about some patching being missing, but there was a bit of a glitch on the script. And because it was a technical guy, he caught the glitch. He called my guy on like, hey, so there's something wrong with, how come? I don't remember the details, it's been a while, but he got caught in the lie. He was still able to turn it around and got the developer's password. And I'm like, dude, you know he was lying. Why did you do that? So it happens. It happens. But so that's social engineering. When you look at a red team simulation, that's in a way the pinnacle of the security testing, because you're using all of those things and you cannot get caught. Okay, keep that in mind for the rest of the story. A few years back, when I was still one of the penetration testers on the team, I'd been involved in quite a few engagements, and some of them were quite the predicament. There's one that, and I realize they are in reverse order here. I should have the security crew to this side, because I'm going to talk about that one first. That was interesting because I'm here in Edmonton, and my team was doing a red team engagement on this customer, and they call me, hey, we need to check their Wi-Fi, but the Wi-Fi target happens to be in Edmonton. Do you know this place? So I look at the address, like, yep, I know that place, I know the building. Like, all right, so you just need to go there. You can access the Wi-Fi from the parking lot and run these tests. We wanted to basically do the Wi-Fi pen test, see, okay, are we using any default passwords in here? Are you using, do you have any like insufficient ciphers still enabled? Anything that should not be allowed in your Wi-Fi, is it allowed? So it was pretty straightforward. So like, all right, let's go. It's around 7 to 8 p.m. And this is mid-COVID, by the way. So get in my car, got my computer, get my TELUS badge. This is an important part of the story. I get my TELUS badge, put it right beside my seat here with my computer, and I drive to the building. I grab my computer. Okay, can I see the Wi-Fi? No, it was too far. The Wi-Fi signal was not strong enough. All right, guess I need to get in. But again, 7 to 8 p.m., mid-COVID, nothing was really easily accessible, especially after business hours. So I drive around the building a little bit, and I get behind the building. What do I see there? Well, you know the back door? It was propped open with a big garbage bag like this. Cleaning crew. It's like, let's go. That's my in. That's how I get in there. So I get too excited. That's the problem. I get too excited, grab my computer, do not grab my TELUS badge, forget about it, and walk into the building. Wearing like a baseball hat, mask, because again, COVID, so super sketchy, and my computer. 7, 8 p.m. So I walk in there. Let's pretend this is the door here. So the parking lot's over there. I walk in here with my laptop, and I like, okay, so I open it. I have my team with an earpiece here. I'm like, okay, I can see the Wi-Fi now. I just need to find a place. So I find a little corner, kind of like this one here. And I get in here. I kind of get down like this a little bit. And like, okay, I can do all the tests from here. And I'm doing it. And I find the Wi-Fi, and I'm taking screenshots and sending upstream. Minding my own business. Then something happened. My peripheral vision starts seeing something happening here. As I turn, about the distance from here to the podium right there, maybe a little further, maybe about this far. A person wearing the traditional janitorial uniform, all blue, with a mask and a hat. Couldn't tell, male, female, couldn't tell. It was just a person, cleaning crew there. Looks at me, I look at the person, we make eye contact. I'm sweating at that point. Person says nothing, I'm like, please leave. Person leaves, I'm like, okay, we're good. I keep doing it, and then again, about right there, but this time there's a noise. Radio chatter. When I look, the same person right there, security guard talking on the radio, cleaning person pointing at me, and I'm like, okay, I gotta go fast. I didn't want to spend the night in the drunk tank that night. So I close my laptop, I tell my guys, I gotta go. They're like, what? I gotta go. Close everything, run to my car, and drive as fast as I could from there without, of course, getting into any kind of traffic trouble. About 10 minutes driving away from there, stop, adrenaline is like right here. Stop, call back my team. They're like, what happened? So I tell them the story. They're like, dude, that's exciting. It's like, yeah, it's exciting now because I did not get caught. Because at this point, it's about 8 o'clock. Have you tried talking to a lawyer, a corporate lawyer at 8 p.m.? It's not happening. He's busy. He's going to answer your call maybe in the morning if you're lucky. So I spent the night on my bed, and it was glorious. So now I have this great story to tell you. But the engagement is not over, because now I need to go back there and see if they tracked my license plate. I knew they didn't catch my face because COVID, so got my mask and all covered. But whatever, I go there, walk in. Now I get into the office. This is like 2 p.m. kind of thing. Place is open for business. I get in there, walk around, take my hat off, open my mask a little bit, kind of do the old, look around, make sure people see me. Put this back on. Nothing. Nothing happened. Nobody came to talk to me. Nobody came to ask, hey, were you last night? We got your license plate here. Zero. Absolutely nothing. So that is all part of the test. So that went all in the report, and that is a finding in itself, because an institution of that caliber should have realized, hey, there was a suspicious person here last night with a computer and ran away as soon as we got security. And then next day I'm there and nothing. So that was pretty exciting. The next one that I wanted to share here with you guys is the fake names episode. This one is a little more recent. So I'm working with this company, and I'm no longer a pen test at this point. At this point, I'm managing the team, and I have a team of contractors working with me. And after you work as a contractor with us for a little bit, we create TELUS emails for you, those kinds of things. So you need to go through security checks and all that standard process. The police checks, all that stuff. So when I ask that the contractors, they're like, oh, there's just one problem here. These are people I'm working for like 6 months now. They're like, oh, there's just a problem here. What do you mean? Yeah, well, our names, they're not actually our names. And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, when we worked for this company here, we all have fake names. What do you mean you have fake names? Like, yeah, let's say this guy named was Jordan. He's like, my name is not Jordan. My name is like Robert or whatever. I'm like, what? Are you joking right now? He goes like, no, everybody's name is fake here except the project manager. I'm like, dude, what's happening? Here's like the Twilight Zone. The guy's like, no. So I go to the project manager and I'm like, dude, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot here. What's happening? And he goes like, what do you mean fake names? He also didn't know that people we had been working with for like 2 years were using fake names. Goes back to his CEO, CIO. I don't know how many C-suite people he talked to. They use their real names now. We got the security checks. Everything ended well, but thought it was pretty funny. So if you're starting your journey in cybersecurity, those are some things you might run into here and there. Now, talking about a red team process, there are, like many things, there's several ways to skin this cat here. And for our process of for red team simulation, we had a few concerns in mind. When you are hiring something of this caliber, sometimes you have lots of time, but you don't have money. Sometimes you have lots of money, but you don't have time. Sometimes you have both time and money. I heard that happens. I never saw it myself, but I heard it happens. But you don't have people to fix, to deploy mitigations and all that. So it had to be something modular that you could work like Lego blocks to build your solution. So generally speaking, this can go between, 2 to 3 months to 10 to 12 months, depending on the size of your organization and your goals. So phase 1, that's our information gathering and external internal assessment. So on a red team, remember, we're replicating criminal behavior here. We're being sneaky. We're being ghosts. So you tell me nothing. You just come to me, Cristian, I work for Acme Limited, and I need to red team us and let us know what happens. We plan things around. You don't tell anyone on your side. Normally it's just you and maybe one or more people knowing. The idea is that nobody knows, right? Because that's how criminals work. We can define some rules of engagement. So for example, let's say you tell me you can do whatever you want, but don't touch our financial systems, because maybe it's PCI compliance, maybe you have a segregated CDE, those things. So you can define what's out of bounds. Okay, so this is off limits, don't touch there. Social engineering. For example, let's say your human resources has strict policies against certain topics for certain pretexts for phishing or for phishing emails. For example, you get to tell me in your phishing emails, you're not allowed to send LinkedIn invites, or you're not allowed to send Amazon gift cards, for example. Whatever your rules are, your off bounds, like can't do that, you tell me at that time, I'm like, okay, got it. We got all that in place and writing, and got the good old John Hancock there, and we get started. So phase 1, well, it's pretty safe to say that us in cybersecurity here, we're professional stalkers here, right? We can, if there's something we want to find out, we will find out. And that's what we do on phase 1. Not only we use the common knowledge tools like Google and other search engines, we have specialized tools that we use to gather information and all that. LinkedIn is one of our best friends there, because through LinkedIn, we can figure out who works where, who's friends with who, which school you went, where did you work for your previous job, all that stuff. So we can build a report with you, right? So we do a lot of that and many other things. So we do all of that information gathering on phase 1. Once we gather all that, we plan the attack and we execute on phase 2. Provided those two are successful, we move on to phase 3, which is purple team. If you're not familiar with all those colors, red team, purple team, and blue team, that's borrowed from military nomenclature. Red team is the attacking team, blue team is the defending team, and purple team is when there's an attacking side collaborating with the defending side. It's the purple team. So if you're buying a red team engagement, the actual value is on phase 3, which is where we share with your team what we learned, how we broke in, where we were able to exploit, where your holes are, where your gaps are, and teach you how to fix it, how to prevent. If you catch anyone there, how you kick them out, all those things. So that's where the value is. And phase 4 is the we call war games, and I realize that's a little Hollywood, but keeps things exciting. That's the retest. So, for example, let's say on phases 1 and 2, we used a certain methodology to deploy the attack. We're going to do it again with a different methodology. So, for example, if we used phishing, voice solicitation, to gain access on phase 1 and 2, on war games, we're going to do something else, like USB drop-in, for example. Show of hands, who's familiar with the USB drop-in here? Do you know what that is? Okay, most of you know. So just quickly, if you don't know what that is, we quickly set up a bunch of USB drives, just go on Amazon, buy a bunch, set them up with some custom malware that you created, normally to obtain connection, to connect with your systems. Put a label. So let's say I'm doing that BSides. I'll put a BSides logo on it, and I'll go to the coffee station and drop on there and put a label on it. Something that will pique your curiosity, like layoffs 2024 or bonus 2024, new security manager 2024. Or if it's, let's say, March and it's urgent, layoffs March 2024. You find the thumb drive. What do you want to do with it? Well, am I on that list? No, there is no list. Well, you don't know that. So you put it in your computer. That calls back to my buddy in the parking lot. And now we have a connection between both of those computers. So we try, there are many different ways to do that. On phase 4, we'll do something different than what we did on phases 1 and 2. Now, we have not been doing as many war games as we would like to for various reasons. Maybe that will change in the future, but that's the intent. So a few months ago, this customer comes to me and I, hey, Cristian, so I want to do a pen test with you guys. I'm like, oh, do you? I was like, yeah. All right, well, is it your first pen test? He was like, no. We've been doing pen tests for 5 years. We do it every year. I'm like, okay, all right. And do you do security awareness and all that? And ask all those typical questions. Do you have this? Do you have that? The answer was always yes. So like, okay, suppose I can do another pen test for you, but you're going to get similar results to what you had the last 5 years because it's going to be just more of the same. Why don't we try something different? He goes like, well, I'm pretty sure I'm doing everything there to be done. Like, no, have you done a red team simulation here? What's that? Like, oh, glad you asked. So I explained to him all of that I just explained, the 4 phases, the methodologies and all that. And he goes like, oh, that's interesting. How long does it take? So we have that conversation and we get started. So we get to the job. Only one point of contact at that customer firm. And that point of contact was not a technical person. You know those firms that the person that runs IT is not the CIO, sometimes it's the CFO, sometimes it's some kind of other director. This was one of those firms. The person who was responsible for IT and technology was not the head of IT. It was someone on the financial side. So their technical knowledge was fairly limited. He just knew he didn't want to end up in the news. Like, all right, fair enough. High cybersecurity maturity, as I mentioned, and their primary goal was to obtain domain privilege escalation or access to business critical information. The nature of that company included possessing lots of those. So it was a pretty big deal for them to make sure none of that was exfiltrated or anything like that. And as a secondary goal, transfer all that knowledge to their team. All right. So we get that all signed up, get it all on paper. Let's go. So we start phase 1. Go on LinkedIn, go on their websites. We start going through their all the domains they had, all the IP addresses we could find that belonged to them, and we start documenting everything, taking screenshots and all that. And then it started getting interesting because we found that there were a bunch of domain names that they forgot to renew in the last, I don't know how many, 3, 4, 5 years. And they were just there. Legal names, like real names, domains that already belonged to them. So they already had a reputation established on registries and such. They just forgot to renew. So let's say it was instead of nate.com or nate.ca or anything like that, were domains such as, I don't know, nate.pp or bsides.nn, like something generic, but those like less known domains. Like, okay, well, just in case, let's register a couple of those for us. So we did that. So, all right, so now we have a domain with the exact name of the customer, but it was .nn or mm or 2 letters that was fairly inconspicuous. We got that. And then as we keep creeping on finding stuff, we found there was an actual clone website of an actual attack that we're hoping was about to take place or had already taken place. It was there. So we asked them, they're like, we have no idea where this is from. We're like, okay, well, Someone's trying to hit you. I'm glad we're here. So we find that, and then we're like, all right, let's make a clone website, put on that domain, and let's create our own malware here. And it's going to be a Windows update. That's going to be our pretext. So we do all that. We prepare everything. At this point, so we have some people doing that technical research, creating the malware, setting up the website, setting up the new domain. Meanwhile, we have another group of people doing the social engineering phase. So they're calling them and finding the names of people and email addresses. So, okay, now we have everything we need. Let's start the attack. So we do that. And the customer has no idea what's happening. We haven't told anyone yet. So we design, we find out all the domain names, we configure everything. Let's go. So we start calling them. We call the first one. Oh, hi, so-and-so. This is Carl from Help Desk. We're all Carl there, by the way. That's the name we use for our social engineering. This is Carl. Please bear with me here. I'm new here, but just trying to, we deployed a security update last night, and your computer didn't get the update. So I just want to make sure you're secure here. And so that was our story. First person we talked to, they're like, called us some names, hung up on us. That's good. Could do with all the name calling, but still, that's okay. I'll take, that's good. And we called second person, third person. That started getting interesting. We call the person, she answers the phone, we tell the story. She was like, oh, okay, well, let's make sure, what do we need to do? So, well, let's check if you have the update. She checks if there's the update. You can hear the keyboard. There was no update. Of course, we just made it up. She was okay. We're like, okay, well, we have a website here. Just get into the website. We'll give her the fake URL. She gets in there. It's the name of the company. Download the update and install. Gets in there. Clicks install. Windows security alert. That's the part we were not sure what was going to happen, because is she going to click? And if she clicks, what kind of permission is configured on those workstations? Is it going to allow me to execute the binary? Is it going to allow me to install? Is it going to reject? What's going to happen here? So we're like this. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Let's see what happens. And she goes, there's a security alert here. What do I do? Just click accept. It's okay. She's like, all right. Click. It gets worse. She clicks accept. The thing stalls. All right, well, nothing happened here, but it did, because we got the connection back on our lab. We're like, okay, I can see now that you got your security patch here. We're good to go. Thank you very much. And then she goes, you know what? As I'm talking to you here, I just realized one thing with my colleague sitting beside me. She also didn't get a security update last night. And I'm like, no, well, not me. That was not me making the call. But we're like, oh, okay. She goes like, but it's okay. I'm going to walk her through the process here. So she goes ahead and installs the Windows security update, and we get the other connection there. And then we're like, because the person receiving the connections is not aware of the phone call happening. So it's like, well, what's happening here? I got a second connection. We're like, don't worry about it. It should stop. But then they kept talking. And in total, we got about 4 connections in. And we're a little worried now because, again, you need to be a ghost, right? So you don't want them to hear anything. It has to stop. So we stop calling, we stop email, we stop everything. Just let it go. So now we have a connection, but we need to make that connection persistent. So meanwhile, we had another group of people crafting a custom Windows DLL, you gotta call it generically like that, side-loaded through that connection in a way that next time they restart the computer, if everything worked, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, and then you try again. But everything working, the new DLL would then had a wrapper around it. You would create a persistent connection with our lab. So now we have a persistent connection. It did work, and that was glorious. So now we have persistent connection to the computer. We had the 4 possibilities. We just used one of them. So we just had to start playing with things. And from that point forward, it's more or less like a penetration test. You do your scanning, you try to find vulnerabilities and try to exploit. But you got to be slow so you don't get caught. We found a vulnerability in their VPN configuration. The templates for the VPN connection, for the role attribute, it was just clear text. and he had a user as a standard user. So we start playing with different strings in there. And eventually we tried a string for like DA, the domain admin, that worked, and we were able to connect to their VPN as domain admin. And from that point forward, we did our asset discovery. We found, okay, where's the domain controller here, created the users that we had to create, assigned the permissions we had to assign, and now we have full control of their network. That's great, but that's only half of the story. Not time-wise, but once we did all of this, we still need to deliver the news. So up until this point, nobody on the client side had any idea of anything that was happening. So we call our guy, first guy who called me when the engagement was about to start. I go, hey, so I just wanted to give you a heads up here on the red team. And it was a very, how do I say this, assertive person. And he was sitting down, we're all on camera. He's the only person on his side, obviously. And he's sitting down like this, kind of sitting back, big smile. Oh, yeah, sounds good. Yeah, how did that go? So we start telling the story. As I'm telling the story, I can see his face dropping and his smile is going away. And he's like, just give me a moment here. Goes on mute, grabs his phone, and he's like this. Hangs up. People start joining the call. And then he comes off mute, goes like, oh, hi, this is my IT team. Can you tell them the same story? Can you tell them the same story you just told me? Sounds good. So we tell them the story. They're like, how did that happen? So like, well, yeah, we have access to more stuff than you have now because you're behind Windows security controls and we're not. So we send some screenshots of their own computers and they were not very happy with that. But then we made friends again. We're like, okay, so this has been all a contract exercise. The next phase of this engagement is teaching you all how we got in, how we exfiltrated, which vulnerabilities we're able to leverage, what are the gaps here. So we're going to teach you how to prevent. And next time, hopefully you kick us out. When you catch it, at this point, the manager asked, how come nobody got any alerts in here? Allegedly, and this is the part I'm not sure. Allegedly, they got no alerts, no notifications, nothing at all. So I don't know if they were trying to cover the fact that they didn't pay attention to things, or maybe their SIM was misconfigured and it was too noisy. Maybe they were getting too many notifications and they don't know what's what. Is this like a real notifications? What's happening here? Misconfigured SIM, which is, if you need help with that, TELUS can help with too, but that's something else. So allegedly they got nothing, to be determined, but that was the story they told to the boss and to us. So for next steps, we did a series of Purple Team workshops with them, webinars and sessions, some were one-on-one, some were with a group, and we transferred all the knowledge. War games was deferred this time. This customer did not have war games in place. They needed a lot of time to train their people, to replace and reconfigure some of the technology, and they chose to go with it and replace the EDR with a new one because apparently the other one. Now, this is another thing I'm not sure. If the existing EDR was properly configured and the IT team was just trying to cover their, or if they, and blaming in the EDR, or if in fact the EDR was properly configured and they just needed something better. Because it should have caught when the side-loaded DLL started the new process making the persistent connection, it should have caught, but it allegedly didn't. A proper ADR would have caught when we registered the domain with their names. You get a notification that a domain was, allegedly they didn't get that. So those are the things that I don't know, but neither do your customers, apparently, right? So, no, not yet. I thought I had a conclusion slide in there. As the conclusion for this story is that sometimes, despite of on paper, you're doing everything right, you still need to trust your people to be doing the right things. You still need to trust the technology they invested so much money was properly configured, is being properly monitored, and all that. I was having a conversation, like, I can remember with someone earlier today, And he was telling me how, oh yeah, we just implemented this new IDS, intrusion detection system, and it's so great, and this and that, and how much it costs and whatnot. And like, yeah, it's good. And then you have your user putting a password on a post-it note here on the monitor, right? This is actually funny. Not too long ago, a friend of mine, I'm just working, minding my own business. I got a text message with a photo. It's a photo of inside a drawer with a post-it note and a password in it. I'm like, what's that? And she goes like, just showing you that I'm cybersecurity aware, and I keep my post-it note with my password inside my drawer. And I'm thinking, what's the appropriate should I say nice job? Should I just hang up? Well, what do I do now? Well, it's a text message, you can't hang up, but what do I do now? I just LOL and all right. Anyways, sometimes we just have to let go. I need to learn that. But there you have it. Want to keep it secure? Make sure you have your people well trained, your technology well configured. If you need help with any of that, we have all of that at TELUS. Give us a call, give us a shout. Chances are everybody in Canada is a TELUS customer in some capacity. We'll help you out with your cybersecurity needs. And if you need any new hardware, we can do that as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Please, if we ask, please, I don't know. I believe most of us we have question. We still have some time. Yeah. So, any question?
Yeah.
Hi, Christian.
Hi.
Just a quick question on the difference you mentioned between red team simulation and pen testing. Even with the red team simulation, you mentioned you have to be ghost, but still, like someone would know that you are performing this pen testing, right? So
Ideally, no more than 1 or 2 people, because there's someone who signed the contract. Sometimes the person signing the contract, is my mic still on? Did it? Yeah, okay. Sometimes the person signing the contract is the same person paying the contract. In that case, that one person is good. Just that one person that needs to know. Sometimes, depending on your organization, it's different people. Pen tested, everybody knows. Sometimes we block time for it. Sometimes we agree to do after hours. Let's say it's a big website, e-commerce, or a banking website, whatever, right? You don't want to disrupt your customers or your staff. So we do it after hours. So everybody knows on a pen test. On a red team, mum's the word. Yeah.
Hello, sir. I'm Nader, and nice meeting you. I turn on the planner here. So,
Yeah.
So just a quick question on because we are seeing so many supply chain attacks. Is there like in red teaming, there's like anything which is closely related to supply chain, or is it something which could be done as a simulation?
There are a few things that could be done, and I'm assuming you're referring to the recent things that we saw happen with the pagers. There are certain things that could hypothetically be done, but when it comes to exploding things, it's a little difficult to do that in a non-destructive fashion. But depending on the supply chain, depending on the test, if it's something digital that only involves checking if someone clicked on a link, we can track that back. Or someone walked into a place, we can find that too. But when it comes to actual physical stuff, it can be more restrictive, case by case. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Excuse me, just a clarity here. When you were talking about registering a domain that's closer to what they have, you found out that some other people had created one
11 to be honest, to be precise.
That mimics the original one.
Yeah.
So in that process, I don't know, I think it's still not required of you to stop your own exercise and inform them of your finding so they can investigate that first and find out if someone is trying to.
If this was a pen test, sure. If it
Okay.
was a pen test, yes. It was not. Yeah. Mhm. You got it?
Hello, this is Ramesh here. It's not a security related question, but a question from your experience. And I'm sure that people are going to find it interesting. You were sharing your experience about the Wi-Fi scanning, the service that you were performing for your client. Did you have any game plan? What if the guard had actually stopped you?
I'm going to be very short with this answer. No. Hey, live free or die hard, right? No, I didn't have a plan. Luckily, I didn't need one, but yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much once more, Cristian. And you all will agree to me that it was a very power-packed. Okay, just a minute. Just
Now, with the example you gave, the weakest link are always the users. So in this equation, apart from security awareness and training that the security team can actually name the users, is there any other thing you recommend? That's the weakest link.
Oh, yeah, don't trust anyone. We're all liars. If you're not sure, go talk preferably in person or a phone call, someone that you know from your team or from your IT team. Funny one that involves someone who works in our team here. Jacob here is one of our penetration testers here. A while back, I had to buy something. In our corporate crowds, we have some limits. So I ping him on our internal chat. Jacob, sorry, gotta buy. Can you just buy this on your corporate card? He goes like, sure can. Let's authenticate this on a video call. So we get on a video call like I couldn't be more proud of you. So that's the recommendation. Don't trust anyone. Oh, but what's our work chat? Who knows, right? So yes, trust anyone.
okay. Thank you once more, Cristian.
You're welcome.
On behalf of the team, we'll send you this. If you still have more questions, you can meet him. I'm sure he opens to more questions. You can ask him more questions and others.
Hey,
That's my question.
So,
yes,
I have a question. So,
of course.
in your example, you mentioned, during the red team testing, right? At the end, you guys got the domain and the main access, right? How did you guys do that? I mean, you just, they downloaded the update, right? You get the connection. I mean,
Yep.
you kind of make the DR always load,
When we were able to modify the VPN connection template,
or the VPN connection template.
that allows us to connect as domain admin.
Because
and
the
then-
username, the credentials is plain text that you can read that. Really?
Misconfigured technology.
Oh, okay.
That all goes in the report.